At Vinton County National Bank, we believe in supporting the areas where we live and work. Now, we'd like to honor those who also serve our communities. Our new Community Champions account is especially for first responders, veterans, active military, and anyone employed in the fields of healthcare or education. This account offers rewards, discounts, and other benefits to those who give so much to others. Vinton County National Bank, rewarding those who serve.
Would you like to work closer to home, save money on gas, and be rewarded for your hard work and attendance? Then Bellisio Foods is looking for you. That's right, Bellisio Foods is now hiring for multiple positions and shifts with great employee benefits, an on-site health clinic, competitive wages, and advancement opportunities. Bellisio Foods is a company that truly values their employees. Apply online at belisiofoods.com/careers.
Well, happy Tuesday. It's election day.
It is election day.
Don't forget. And we're going to talk more about that.
Yeah. Hey, Dylan, you want to check the camera? We're kind of jittery.
Ooh.
But yeah, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Today is election day. It is that special election, just one thing on the ballot.
That's right. Issue 1. And if you're a little bit confused about it or don't know where to go vote, we're going to help you out with that today.
Yeah. Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, so later in the show today, we are going to replay our video all about issue 1, where we talked to a couple of different folks with different opinions on this.
Yeah.
To share it. So we are going to talk to Bill Martin and Dennis Reinhart, who came into the studio and spoke in opposition to issue 1. Mm-hmm. And then we're also going to hear from Ohio House Representative Bob Peterson, who came in and spoke on behalf of issue 1.
Yes.
So we will be presenting both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
It is one and then the other. It's not a back and forth kind of thing.
Right.
So if you tune in and you only hear one side, it's just because you got to listen a little bit longer or you tuned in too late.
Yeah, right.
And missed
exactly.
the first part. But yeah. And,
you can watch it on demand, though, too.
And all of this is available on demand. But yeah, it is election day here in Ohio, and there is just one thing on the ballot.
Yep, issue 1. And there you go. So lots and lots of stuff going on. Unfortunately, we had 2 kind of major incidents here in the city of Jackson last evening. Strangely, about the same time, I feel. And Jeremiah Shaver had to run around and be 2 places at one time. Not sure how we did that.
He had to get his karaoke microphone out.
He did.
Head to the sign of an accident and a fire. But yeah, so
he's never going to live that down, is he?
He loves that thing.
Well, you said it does good. Good job, though.
Well, it sounds terrible in this video.
Oh, okay.
It sounded good the other day, but it sounds terrible now. I'm not sure what happened. It might be broken already. For those that are unaware, Jeremiah Schaefer has bought a microphone for like a karaoke machine to do his live streams. And so it's a little plastic microphone with a selfie stick attached to it. And you put your phone, there on the selfie stick.
So you can record yourself doing...
Yeah, and you have... it
karaoke
moves like that with the microphone. Yeah. Well, yeah, I assume that there's like a karaoke app.
Probably,
and like the word, I think that's what it's supposed to be. But anyway, it looks very funny. And it looks even funnier if you can like step back and see him doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dylan's going to show some video clips here. And if you notice that and think it looks funny like I do.
It is.
That's what it is.
He thinks it's funny too. So
yeah.
But yeah.
So anyway, so this is the first story. So Jennifer, I think you got the notes there. This was an accident that happened on Monday, August 2nd at 4:15 p.m. U.S. Route 35 westbound exit ramp to State Route 32.
Yeah, and that is the exit there going, like if you're coming from Gallipolis going toward Chillicothe, and you would get off there to exit onto State Route 32 to go to, like toward Athens or back here toward town. And I actually, strangely enough, passed that accident. And it was just one of those that you saw I think, I mean, obviously there's tons of damage there to both the vehicle and the area around it, the grass and all of that. But I think it looked much worse than what it was. I was very worried for the safety of the driver or anybody else that was involved. But it seems as if the semi there was driven by 58-year-old Herbert Corpening of Lenoir, North Carolina. And he just, I think, from what it sounds, misjudged that curve there and toppled over while exiting onto State Route 32. Hit the guardrail and then, turned over. It looked like he was hauling like a bunch of wood or boards or something when I drove by. He did sustain non-life-threatening injuries as a result of the crash, and he was transported to Holzer Medical Center, Jackson. And this morning, just so you all know, as I drove in, that exit ramp is open, but there's still police activity and some crews there. I'm not sure what they're doing, but you can get off on that exit, just slow way down because there's a lot of folks out there walking around and stuff. So yeah, that was a really scary looking crash that occurred. And thankfully, nobody was seriously injured there.
Yeah.
And then
at about the same time.
Yeah.
There was a fire at the Quick Clean Laundry at 124 Morton Street in Jackson. Jackson City firefighters were called at 4:48, so just about a half an hour later.
Crazy.
Monday, after a customer reported a fire, the Liberty Township and Colton fire departments were called for mutual aid assistance. A total of 25 firefighters were on the scene. The Jackson Police Department, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, and the Jackson City Electric Department also had personnel respond. Jackson Assistant Fire Chief Kyle Hickey told the Telegram that the fire resulted in heavy damages to the interior of the building, including the self-serve washers and dryers. Apparently, there was nobody inside the building when the fire started. Hickey stated a couple of customers were using the facility but had left for a short time before one returned to find smoke coming out the door. The cause of the fire was not immediately determined, but Hickey speculated it was likely related to an electrical or gas issue. The state marshal's office was called in to investigate since a commercial building is involved. But the fire is not considered to be suspicious. Jackson area resident Keith Denny is the owner of the Quick Clean Laundry. Firefighters were on the scene until approximately 7:30 p.m. At the time the fire was reported, Jackson City firefighters were still at the scene of the semi-trailer wreck just outside of Jackson. This section of Morton Street, which also serves as State Route 93, was closed to traffic for approximately 2 hours.
Yeah, you want to talk about our firefighters being, stretched thin anyway, and having two major incidents like that going on at the same time. I just wanted to, I love Lynn and Keith to death, and I hope, their family is, I'm sorry for that. Nobody would wish that upon anyone with the fire and all of that. They're great people, so we're thinking about you guys. And laundromats, man, there's a lot that could go up quickly there. Sure. I was thinking about that as I saw that fire go. So lots and lots of electric, lots and lots of heat. Yeah. Lots and lots of things that can burn in there. So hopefully it can be salvaged and continue on.
Yeah, but thankfully no major injuries at either of those.
And no firefighters or first responders were hurt from what we can tell. So that's very good news as well.
Lighter news, we got the Ross County Fair and the Athens County Fair. What's going on this week? I think this is Athens.
This is...
Oh, that's a band.
Ross also... wow, Ross must have a whole lot of stuff going on. Okay. All right.
So anyway, happening today at the Ross County Fair.
So, okay. Do you want to do the Athens
Is this Athens?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, wait. There's 3 booklets of Ross County Fair stuff. Okay. well, we'll just do it all. Why not? Today is the 8th.
Today's Tuesday, August 8th.
I got to get out my old lady bifocals here and get it right. Okay. So today is the swine show at the Ross County Fair. Today is Kenworth Truck Company Day. They're also doing horse show, poultry show. All of that is this morning. There's so much stuff going on. There's an All-American Lumberjack show.
That sounds pretty cool.
Fun at 2. There's a hypnotist at 3:30. That would be hilarious. We should send Pete Wilson to get hypnotized.
Pete and Red and Todd.
Yes, all of that.
And then we can
control them, the news.
Yeah.
The Southeastern High School Band is performing at 4:30. The Lumberjack show will be back at 5. There's some clogging and square dancing and stuff around 5 to 6 to 7. There's a horseshoe competition at 6.
That's cool.
That is awesome.
Are you trying to shoe a horse or are you playing horseshoes?
I think you're playing horseshoes. I think. And then, oh, for the love of God. Sorry.
So, what
Wait,
were...
it's just really confusing because they have 3 different pages of the same things.
Is one just 4-H and one is attractions?
I think that's what I'm starting to get to. Yes. So there's just like square dancing and clogging and the lumberjack show. And the Great Seal of Ohio Band is at 7:30 tonight at the Ross County Fair. And then at 9, the Kingston Kickers. I assume that's
like a reggae kind of thing, maybe?
No, I would say that's clogging.
Oh.
Or dancing.
Kingston, that's in Jamaica, right?
Well, it's also 1 mile out of Chillicothe.
Oh, okay.
The booming metropolis of Kingston, Ohio.
All right. Well, all right. Well, I feel like
yes,
one of those Kingstons is more famous than the other.
Yeah, probably. So, okay. There you go.
Well, if you would like to see the Kingston Cloggers, we have 2 passes to the Ross County Fair. Good any day this week.
I was looking to see if they have anything, like what their
what the big shows are.
Yeah.
But if you would like these 2 passes to the Ross County Fair, first person in the comments that says, "Hey, I want them tickets," they're yours. You just got to come pick them up here at the Stockmeister Plaza on Main Street in Jackson. Just leave a comment and say, "Hey, I'd like those tickets. I want to go see the Kingston Cloggers."
Yes, the Kickers.
Which may or may not be a reggae group. Only one way to find out.
No, and so Matt was talking about this wonderful barbecue joint that has food at the Ross County Fair, and I want to go just to try that.
Yep.
He was talking about mashed potatoes and gravy and the whole 9 yards, roast beef and all kind of stuff.
That's a lot.
So I'm like, yeah, and it's in an air-conditioned building
at
the fairgrounds. So.
But the Athens County Fair is also going on this week.
So
we've got rabbit show, more rabbit shows. We got dairy feeder shows, market dairy feeder show, showmanship, junior beef breeding, Kiwanis, just says Kiwanis. And then we have antique judging and baked goods judging. I volunteer as tribute for the baked goods judging.
Same.
Yeah, so that's all happening at the Ross County Fair today. Then tonight is motocross.
Cool.
Oh, there's also a reptile show.
Ooh, fun.
That's cool.
Hey, I missed it. There is an apple pie contest at the Ross County Fair today as well. Lip sync contest. I missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening.
So all of these fairs are so fun. If you get to go out and visit, if you want those Ross County Fair tickets, please give us a shout out, and we'll make sure that you and they're good for, as far as we can tell, any day.
12th. Yeah, when the fair closes.
So whichever day you would like to go, whether it be the weekend or whatever, you can pick and choose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, as we mentioned, today is election day.
It is.
Have you voted yet?
I have not. I need to get up there.
I need to get up there too.
We need to go to the high school.
Dylan has never voted, so we're going to see if we can
Are you registered to vote, Dylan?
He
I
doesn't
don't think
know.
so.
He doesn't know.
Oh, for the love of sweet baby
So
Jesus.
can you cast a provisional ballot at the polling place? I don't think you can you? You would have to go to the Board of Elections ahead of time to do that.
Yeah, you would have had to have been registered by now to vote. So it's too late for you for this election, but maybe the next one coming up, you could get registered to vote for.
November will be here pretty soon.
It'll be here before we know it.
Yeah.
You do only have one thing to vote on today. That is issue 1. And you're going to be finding out a little bit more about that here as we go. We do want to remind you, and Pete Wilson stopped in to remind you that the polling places have once again changed a little bit in our area. If you are in the Jackson area and you vote in the Jackson area, you will be voting at the Jackson High School field house, which is up on the hill there right beside the high school. Same in Wellston. If you're a Wellston voter, you go to the high school there, I think it is.
Yeah,
too.
Wellston High School,
Okay.
then Jackson High School, and in Oak Hill, it's still the Madison
It's
Jefferson Bingo Hall.
Still Madison Jefferson. In Vinton County, they have switched a lot of their polling places as well. So if you're a little bit confused, you can go straight to the Secretary of State's website. And they have a lot of links there where you can just click on. You can just literally type your name in there, and it will tell you what your polling place is, and that you are registered to vote indeed, and that and what your precinct is.
Yep.
So it's not hard to find. You just have to do a little bit of work. Yeah, I thought so too, Jeremiah. You should be able to do a provisional ballot at the polling place. However, if you're not registered to vote, you're not going to be able to submit that ballot. Provisional ballots are for people that are kind of like misplaced, like they've moved in the midst of being, registered to vote and all of that. So, or you got married and you got your name changed or something of that nature. But yes, you can. I thought you could do a provisional at the polling place as well.
Sure. But yeah, so today we're going to be discussing issue 1. Like we said, it's a special election with only one thing on the ballot. Issue 1 asks Ohio voters to consider an amendment to the state constitution. The amendment, if approved, will elevate the standards by which the Constitution of the state of Ohio may be amended, requiring at least 60% of the vote to be approved.
That's right.
And so that's kind of a simplification of it a little bit. But that's the basic gist of it. And so, again, we're going to hear from local attorney Bill Martin and retired teacher Dennis Reinhart, who will be speaking in opposition of issue 1. And then later we will hear from Ohio House Representative Bob Peterson from the 91st District, which includes Jeffersonville, Washington Courthouse, Greenfield, and Hillsboro, speaking in support of issue 1.
Yeah, and we truly want to thank both parties, both sides of this issue, for taking time out of their days to, we're talking about people that are very busy, and the fact that they took time to send their message our way, we greatly appreciate it. And because it is, we are here for you all to be your community channel and to help you, decide things like this, or to be informed about things like this. So, it's really, really kind of both of them, or all of them, to come in and hang out with us. So
here's a little bit of an election day special here on Main Street TV.
Yeah.
Talking about issue 1. Get out and vote today.
Please do so. And, hopefully you'll be more informed after you watch this.
Yeah. All right. Dylan?
Well, we are here to talk about issue 1, and we have a couple of guests here kind of on the anti side of the vote no on issue 1 side. Could you all introduce yourselves?
Certainly. I'm Bill Martin. I'm a retired attorney.
I'm Dennis Reinhart. I'm a retired social studies teacher from Jackson City Schools.
That's right. And welcome. We're so happy to have you two here today to kind of give your take on issue 1, as our job here is to inform the community, right? That's what we're going to do today. Okay, so Could you kind of just give a little bit of a nutshell about what you think issue 1 is?
Yes, issue 1 talks about amending the Ohio Constitution. As we know, in our country, we have the federal system, federal United States Constitution, and we have the states with state constitutions, and of course, we also have local governments with local laws, ordinances. We're talking here about the state constitution. The state constitution has a fundamental law of what goes on in the state of Ohio, but because it's at the state level, these and other states as well tend to be longer and more detailed than other kinds of constitutions. It's intended as a kind of a living document to handle large issues as they come up. Now, amending the Constitution, there are 2 ways commonly used to amend the Ohio Constitution. One way is by the legislature's resolution. The legislature adopts in both houses by a 3/5 majority a resolution saying, here's the constitutional amendment. That goes off to the ballot for people to vote on. The other way is really why we're sitting here, and that's the Citizens Initiative Petition. The Citizens Initiative Petition requires that there be a petition out in the community, and at least 44 counties in Ohio must qualify with qualifying signatures. And I believe the number is something like 5% of the voters in the previous gubernatorial.
Exactly, yeah.
So in Jackson, it was 400 and some. Statewide, over 400,000 ballot signatures are required. In 44 counties, half the counties have to qualify. That's very, very difficult. It does happen on occasion. Dennis has got some numbers to tell you how often it's happened, how often it's been successful. It's hard to do.
It is. The initiative ballot we have was instituted in 1912, which is 111 years ago. There have been 79 initiative ballots introduced for the voters of Ohio to vote on. During that time, only 19 have passed. It's extremely hard under the current system to do that.
Okay.
Now, of the ballots initiated by the General Assembly, 126 have been accepted by the people of the state of Ohio. So it's a very difficult thing to do. And as Bill said, the Ohio Constitution is a living document. It was meant to handle things such as bond issues and other things that come up that would not come up in the federal government. We are not a federation of independent states. We are a single entity, and we have the ballot initiative, which the federal government does not.
No,
it's comparing oranges and apples and saying they're the same thing. They're not.
Now let's
Okay.
talk a little bit about what the state issue 1 does. If adopted, the previous practice was once these ballot issues to amend the Constitution gets on the ballot, they have to be adopted since 1912 by 50% plus 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's majority rule.
So
The
one
majority-
person, one vote is kind of
I think
the
part
thought.
of what we have to understand here is this: in Ohio, our practice for over 100 years has been majority vote for constitutional amendments. State issue 1 would jack that up to 60% of the vote in order to pass one.
Okay.
And that's very, very difficult. Also, issue 1 would say if you're going to have a citizens initiative petition, you don't have to qualify in 44 states, you have to qualify in 88 states.
88 counties.
Now, what part of what we need to remember is, as far as citizens initiative petitions goes, one county can screw it up, can say no, and 41% of the voters can say no.
And
You have to ask yourself, is that majority rule? Is that democracy? That's really the core of what this issue is about. Dennis, I believe, may have some numbers on some of the kinds of initiatives that have passed.
That was going to be my next question.
Okay,
Good. Glad
with
you have
less than
that.
60%.
all right, we've had so many beneficial things passed that could not reach a 60% majority. In 2005, Governor Taft, a Republican, had a program called the Third Frontier Program. And basically it was to modernize Ohio's economy and business. And it's still helping Ohioans today. It passed with 54% of the vote.
Okay.
That's all it could get. It could not get 60%. So today it would not be able to be implemented under issue 1. More recently, in 2015, a ballot initiative was passed to bar the use of the amending process for businesses to create monopolies. It passed by 51%. 2006, minimum wage was increased. It passed by 57%. There were tax credits in 1990 and other steps to help housing projects. They passed by 53%. In 1982, there was a ballot initiative that enabled low-interest first-time home buyers program that allowed people to be able to buy homes in Ohio. It passed by 57%. It would not be used. And if you look back over our history, there's everything from things that dealt with racial equality to protecting the people as far as tax levies, how high these tax levies could be before the people had to vote on them. Okay, so there is a multitude of things that have been beneficial to the people of Ohio that would not be in place today. And that just shows you these were good things. And that just shows you how difficult it is to pass a ballot initiative. And going back to what Bill said about the 88 counties, one of the arguments they have is that it's to protect Ohio from corruption and outside influences. If you have 88 counties, what that does is make corruption easier, because all an outside interest has to do is go into one county and pour money into that county and to influence the board of elections in that county, and everybody in that county. That's one county. They take that county, then they stop the entire thing that the people of Ohio might want, the majority of the people. So it doesn't lessen corruption. It creates opportunities for it, is what it does.
Okay. Totally understandable. It's interesting how to think of things both ways, and this is such an interesting topic. I'm loving this.
Well, there's one fact that former Governor Robert Taft pointed out in a letter to the legislators. Bob Taft, Republicans, Taft, pretty much associated together over the years. He wrote a letter to the legislature in which he opposed State Issue 1.
Was this recently?
It was while it was pending in the legislature,
Yes.
before the 3/5 vote.
Okay.
I can look at part of it here. Based on my experience as governor, I believe it would be a mistake to raise the voter approval threshold for amendments to the Ohio Constitution to 60%. Bob Taft was an economic development guy.
Mm-hmm.
He liked economic development programs. Up until at least recently, the Republican Party has been economic development oriented folks. And Bob Taft said, I urge you to remember that the Ohio Constitution contains a $750,000 limit on debt the state can incur absent a public vote. For the state to be able to issue general obligation debt to finance or build highways or schools, to protect the environment, create jobs, you must persuade voters to approve an amendment to the Constitution. With a 60% voter approval requirement, such initiative may become impossible in the years to come.
I mean, you can't. Well, I could see that, because you can't get people to agree whether the sky is blue or not anymore.
Well,
So.
Dennis just pointed out to you several instances in which, yes, there were majority votes, but not 60%.
Every one of those was a majority,
So-
but it would not have reached the threshold that they have set.
Part of what we have to face here is that in practical terms, both with the 88 county requirement and the 60% requirement, what you're doing is freezing the status quo. And what's the status quo? Well, the Speaker of the House recently got 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
The leader of the Republican Party recently got 5 years. Why? State legislature corruption. This is a desperate attempt by the corrupt state legislature to freeze the status quo to their advantage.
And what you have to understand, the more people that they cut out of the process, they're asking people to give up a right of democracy. They're trying to make it more difficult to exercise. The more people you cut out, what you have is minority rule. And in every place that there's been minority rule in the world, there has been corruption. Okay. So when you look at these signs that say protect our Constitution, who are they protecting it from? Okay. Are they protecting it from outside interests? No. The guy that is bankrolling the entire YES effort is a billionaire from Illinois, and he's doing a similar thing in other states, okay? Are they protecting us from corruption? Obviously not. Bill just explained. The ballot initiative didn't cause that. The ballot initiative is the answer to that. It allows the people of Ohio, if the General Assembly won't address it, to address if there is corruption in Ohio. So when they're asking, protect our Constitution, you got to think, if they're asking you to give a write-up that makes it more difficult to exercise democracy, okay, what they want to do is cut as many people out as far as their voice as they can. And, you know, there's a reason for that, okay? If you cut through all this other stuff, the reason is that they have a supermajority in the General Assembly, and that is due to gerrymandering. Okay, they're afraid that a ballot initiative at some point in the future is going to address this gerrymandering.
Could you explain that, please?
Okay, gerrymandering is this. You draw up voting districts to give you an advantage that you will never lose an election. So you cut out voters you don't want in that district, and you draw them squiggly, whatever, to make it so you can win elections constantly. And what that does is you don't have no accountability to the voters. And so they've had this gerrymandering for a while. The voters of Ohio, 70% of the voters of Ohio voted that this needs to be redrawn. They ignored 7 court orders from the state Supreme Court, they being the supermajority in the General Assembly. They ignored that, and they kept running the clock out till the last election. So we had to use the same map. Okay, so technically, they are in violation of the Constitution. It's unconstitutional, and technically it's illegal. They are afraid that eventually the people of Ohio will address this by the initiative ballot. They want to make it more difficult for us to do so to protect that power. And basically, cut through everything, that's what it is. It's a question of power and maintaining power.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying there. And a lot of folks have brought up 2 issues that I've heard, and then I was going to ask you all what questions that you've received, because I think that's fair of what people are thinking, you know, out there. But the first issue that I've heard is this is about abortion. The second issue I have heard is that this is about legalizing marijuana, and that some side, you know, the other side would not want either of those passed. They're trying to perhaps influence the vote by passing this, or trying to sneak this initiative in. What would you say about that?
The abortion, we don't necessarily say abortion. We would prefer reproductive rights, and we think people ought to have reproductive rights. Go ahead and say that. But that's likely to go onto the ballot as an issue in November. That explains why they're squeezing this in August. If you're really trying to save the Ohio Constitution, why would you sneak it in an August election when, as far as they know, 8 or 10 people would, 10% of the people would show up to vote?
And you got to look at it this way.
It's a very cynical attempt to do this.
Okay.
And now there are lots of issues you can point out. I'm sure the gun people would say, but they can have a ballot initiative to take away all our guns. Well, at some point, the people probably ought to have a say in it. And as Dennis points out repeatedly, vote your conscience when the time comes.
You can do that. What they're not telling you is this. You can vote your conscience later on abortion and on guns. But if you give up a right on August 8th, you lose that right forever. You have another chance with abortion, with guns, whatever. But if you lose this, now it's 60%, no matter what people want, and it's going to be difficult to attain. You can repeal laws as well as add laws with the ballot initiative. Suppose these people do not like a law. Now it takes 60%. They can't do it. Okay, it's almost an impossibility to do it. So they have to think further down the line, you know, what are you trading? What are you giving up? And what you're trading is democracy, okay? And you have an opportunity to exercise that democracy the way you want later. But if you lose it on August 8th, it's gone forever.
Yeah. So we're afraid you're going to be frozen out at 60% with respect to the Constitution.
Okay.
And this is a right we've had for over 100 years.
Yeah, since 1912. So here's the thing that bothers me, I think, and we are running out of time here, but we want to be fair to both sides. But I think it's very important for you all out there, this is my opinion, to understand that this issue is not about one thing. It's not about abortion or reproductive rights or marijuana or the next thing that comes up. This is one issue in dealing with the state constitution.
And it's your future.
So don't let your feelings toward that topic. This is a vote on its own. Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's not. They don't go hand in hand.
The 60% thing, if passed, would likely be forever.
Yeah,
It's so difficult to get back. And Ohio has places to go and things to do.
sure.
Someday we're going to have to do some economic development and need a bond issue in excess of $750,000. I can just see that coming down the road. Can't you?
Sure.
Of course you can. How are you going to do it with 60% can't? This is not smart.
All right, fair enough. And I think we have a couple of minutes if you all wanted to, focus on maybe a closing statement.
Okay, I'll pull no punches here. And, issue one is kind of born out of self-interest. It's a lack of concern for others, and it has to do with a minority. Some of that minority has to do with being greedy. Okay, it's gathering its support through a lot of misinformation, and it's feeding fear and ignorance, And its purpose is to basically take away the rights of the majority in lieu of what the minority would have. And you have to ask yourself this, or I ask myself this, if something is born out of self-interest, they're using push-button fear things, they're using fear, greed, and, deceiving people, that has no merit or advantage or moral purpose for the common sense people of Ohio. And that's the last thing I want to say.
Okay, fair enough. Bill?
To suppose that by voting yes on issue one in August is to save the Ohio Constitution, I think is painting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. Thank you.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we cannot thank you enough for your words and for your thoughts this morning. We hope that you have made people's decisions maybe a little easier one way or the other. That's why this forum is happening. And, as a community channel, we are here to inform our viewers, and we hope that you all get out there. If you need to read some things, if you need to, hopefully this has answered a lot of your questions, but we really just hope you get out and vote August 8th. It is a special
You can
election,
vote now.
and you
Vote
can
early.
vote now.
Yes.
And
early.
vote early, and you can get out and exercise your vote one way or the other, however it is. What was your phrase?
About democracy?
Yes.
Okay, it's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democratic thing. It's a democracy thing.
So get out, exercise your rights. All right, today we are joined by State Representative Bob Peterson, who is currently serving his first term as state representative for the 91st Ohio House District, which includes our neighbors, all of Fayette, Highland, and Pike counties and Western Ross counties. So we want to thank him, and we are going to be discussing issue one and maybe get to the bottom of some of the questions that you all have and maybe any misconceptions or just different things that people are wondering, and we would love to have those things addressed today from our representative. And we want to thank you so much for joining us today, Representative Bob Peterson. Thank you. Welcome.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to be with you. Sorry I can't be in person today, but yeah, and I also had the pleasure of representing Jackson County, Vinton County, Gallia, Lawrence, all those counties down there for 11 years in the Ohio Senate. So you're very familiar, and it's great to be with you again.
Well, that's so correct. And yes, I'm sure that your name and face is very familiar to many of our viewers down here in the area. Those darn term limits get to you, though, don't they?
No, that's just fine. That's just fine.
Well, we're happy to have you in the House.
And it's a whole lot easier to cover 4 counties rather than the 10 counties I served for 11 years. Although I truly do miss the people down there and serving that area. But so it's great to visit with you today, talking about an important issue. A constitutional amendment should be very important, and it's important for voters to know what they're voting on and make sure they show up to vote on August 8th, just a few weeks away.
You are correct, and this is sneaking up on us very quickly. And what I would like to talk about today is, we contacted several people. You were gracious enough to come in and kind of talk the pro side of the constitutional amendment we'll be voting on. So we thank you for that, and we will get right to that and try to answer some questions that our viewers have. But that special election, again, this is a special election. And could you kind of maybe, inform our viewers a little bit about what that means? Because it's not the normal election in November.
Yeah, we're very used to voting in November and for the primary in March or May. And, we have special dates in August and then earlier in the year for elections that don't quite fit that cycle. And that's what this one does. And I think it'll be great. I think people will turn out. I think it's a constitutional amendment. It's truly important. And this one's fairly simple. I am urging a yes vote. I supported it on the House floor. I actually spoke on the House floor to put this before voters this August. So I'm excited to have it before voters. A constitutional amendment is very simple. This one, it protects our Ohio Constitution by making sure that the issues we're putting forward have strong support, not just a little bit of support, but strong support. So it raises the threshold from 50% to 60% to pass a constitutional amendment. Again, regular laws can be passed 50-50. Increased taxes on schools can be 50-50. But our founding document, the Ohio Constitution, should be protected at a higher standard. So this amendment that I would encourage you yes for does 3 things. One, it raises the threshold for passage from 50% to 60%. Secondly, it doesn't allow people to cherry pick which counties they go collect signatures from. Currently, only 44 counties have to have signatures collected in them. And I think it's important that all 88 counties, people are going to propose a constitutional amendment, they should know what all 88 counties. And quite frankly, most of the counties I represent are counties that they ignore, places like Jackson and Vinton and Gallia and Lawrence. They just don't travel down there to collect signatures because it's hard. It's easier to collect them in Columbus or Cincinnati or Dayton or Cleveland. And I think the voices of Appalachia are just as important. So I'm strong in support of 88 counties being included in the signature gathering. We shouldn't cherry pick that. And then the third thing that this amendment does is right now we have a cure period. So when you collect all these signatures and then turn them in to the Board of Elections, you get a second chance at it. 2 or 3 weeks later, you get to turn in another batch of signatures in case you didn't quite have enough. Well, when I file my petitions for office, or anybody filing petitions for office, or filing tax increases at your local school board or something, all those tax bills, those all they only have one date. And in reality, this is more of an efficiency measure than anything else. Currently, under our system, where they have a second shot at it, a second chance, the Board of Elections, our local officials, have to go through all those ballots both times. And then just simply, we should have a date when the signatures have to be right, and we should just have one date. We don't need to have 2. No other issue or person on our ballot has 2 shots to correct signatures. It either has to be right or it's not. So 3 simple things that you're voting on.
Well, that makes total sense. And you've put it very, very, very well, so that I think that's very, very clear. A couple things that I was thinking about as you were speaking. How often would voters vote on something that would change our state constitution? Just, in the past, how often does that happen?
Sure. So under our, maybe if you allow me, let's step back. So the U.S. Constitution, we're all familiar with, has had 27 amendments to the U.S. Constitution in our 247 years of life as a country. We've made 27 amendments. 10 of those, if you remember your history lesson, happened almost immediately. The first 10 amendments were the Bill of Rights, providing things like freedom of speech, the Second Amendment protecting our gun rights. So the first 10 happened just right away. They were kind of things that they didn't agree to in the Constitution, but needed to add later. So for basically almost 250 years, we've only made 17 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. You compare that to the Ohio Constitution, which has had 172 amendments added to it, dramatically different. And that's obvious from the length of our Constitution. The U.S. Constitution has 7,591 words in it. 7,591 words, easily read in a few hours. The Ohio Constitution, by contrast, has over 67,000 words to it. It's not a founding document. It's a legalese. It's all these things that really don't need to be in our Constitution because we haven't protected it. We've allowed out-of-state people to go buy our Constitution, and I can give you examples.
Sure. No, and I think that I understand exactly what you're saying. And that's a really good history lesson in the fact that our national Constitution has been messed with way less than the state. So
yeah, and
that's
probably,
interesting.
and I would argue that the 17, Bill of Rights, and then the other 17 amendments added in the U.S. Constitution are great. I mean, they're well thought out. They were argued about for years before they actually joined our U.S. Constitution. And that's not necessarily the case in the Ohio Constitution. We respond to 30-second ads on TV or the radio, and those are great. You'll probably hear me urging a yes vote, and you may hear the other side offering a different opinion. But we don't have the depth of the discussion like we do in the legislature or like we have on a congressional amendment, where the U.S. Constitution, as an example, it takes 75% of the states to approve. 3/4 of the states have to approve it. It takes a supermajority out of Congress to put it before the states. And right now, we don't have any of that protection in Ohio, and it's reflected in our Constitution. The biggest example. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say the biggest example, of out-of-state people buying our Constitution would very much be the casinos. Whether gambling is, putting those 4 casinos is good or bad for the state, that's a discussion that we can and should have. But what's very obvious is that we didn't get a very good deal because investors from out of state said that we should put this in front of the voters, and they did. And they bought the right to build 4 casinos. Mm-hmm. And while they pay billions of dollars in taxes, what most states collect are billions and billions of taxes. So they gave themselves a sweetheart deal, and they actually gave the specific location of property that they owned or had under contract on where the casino should be. So in our Constitution, it lists a specific address and property deeds on where the 4 casinos could be built.
Interesting. Well, you know where one didn't get built? Right here in our area. They forgot about us down here, right?
And they probably didn't collect signatures in Jackson County.
You're right about that. So true. So so what do other states do? I'm curious about that. Where do we fall in the midst of other states in the union?
Yeah, so only 18 states. We're one of only 18 states that allow a citizen-led Constitution amendment to go into the Constitution. One of only 18. And of those 18, almost all the others have some sort of restrictions that are far greater than Ohio. Either a higher voter threshold like 60% or 66% or 55%, or it's harder to get a ballot. It takes more signatures. It takes signatures from every congressional district or signatures from every legislative district. And in the 18 states that allow it, it's much harder in almost all the states to put an initiative before the ballot than it is in Ohio.
Okay, and I was just curious about that, where we fall, within all of the other states here.
No, you're helping my case. We're the vast minority of states that allow this, and their constitutions reflect that they're protecting their constitution.
Okay, there you go. Let me ask you this. What are some of the common misconceptions that you're hearing, or maybe common questions out there that people might be a little bit confused about?
Yeah, so it primarily are the things that we've talked about. What is the need? Well, the need is protect special interests from. Why do we need to do this, and why should it be a higher threshold? And it's pretty obvious because of the difference between the U.S. Constitution and the Ohio Constitution on what's in it and all the amendments, and comparing to other states, it's obvious. So, so the threat that's out there from special interest groups, outside of a state in almost all cases, there are people gathering signatures right now to legalize marijuana. There are people gathering signatures to raise the minimum wage up to $25 per hour. There are people that would take away hunting rights and the ability to raise livestock in the state. There are people gathering signatures to take away qualified immunity that allows our police and firemen to have protection if they're doing things legally within their job description. Certainly, the abortion issue in November is going to be on the ballot, we would anticipate. Um, and then, the current rights that are guaranteed in our Ohio Constitution, they're harder to take away at a 60% level than they would be at 50%. These current rights would be like the protecting the Second Amendment, the ability to have and own a gun, the ability of freedom of speech. All these things are at greater threat if we don't protect our Constitution.
Okay, fair enough. And, I was teetering on whether to bring this up or not, but you did it, so I think it's fair game now.
Everything's
One of
great.
the I'm going to get you. One of the biggest things that I hear is, well, this is the Republicans trying to sneak this in before the abortion issue comes up in the fall. What say you?
So that's not for me. I mean, in fact, you can go back probably 15, 20 years ago. I know 15, maybe 20. I had the great honor and pleasure. I'm a farmer from up in Fayette County. I had the pleasure of serving as president of the Ohio Farm Bureau. And we were trying to protect our Constitution, 20 years ago because it's just too easy. The Chamber of Commerce, the NFIB, the small business owners, all this vast collection of, Buckeye Firearms, all these other groups have been trying to protect the Constitution for decades, literally, because it's too easy for special interests to come in and buy our Constitution, with a bunch of 30-second ads. And, they can pass something that they wouldn't be able to pass through the legislature because the legislature would ask them the hard questions. So for some people, absolutely, it's about abortion. For other people, it's about protecting the ability to do business. For other people, it's for the ability to make sure that nobody can come take away their gun legally. It's all those issues. Our Constitution in the state of Ohio is truly at risk of flip-flopping back and forth on issues because of how much money somebody may want to come throw into Ohio. And while $1 million or $2 million is a lot of money, it's not that money to some people that have a special interest. The casinos would be a good example. Um, they came in, and I don't know how many millions of dollars they spent, but the first year they made billions. So we need to do better protecting our Constitution.
Okay. And what would you say to the folks that say, hey, listen, this Constitution's been in effect since 1912, I believe. Why would we change it?
Yeah,
Why
this version
change it now?
12. Because we didn't do it 5 years ago, because we didn't do it 10 years ago. The ability through technology and through the dollars that people have make it a greater risk now than it was, 100 years ago, 1912, when they passed this version of the Constitution. There weren't a lot of constitutional amendments, the first 50, 60 years, because it was hard to go to all 44 states and gather the number of signatures. Today, it's not hard at all. I could with $500,000, I could get any issue I wanted put before the voters. I could collect those signatures, I believe. So we need to protect our Constitution. The world has changed a lot since 1912.
That I would agree with for sure. Well, very good. So I'm just wondering, is there anything else you would like to, our viewers to know about this issue one? And again, the election is coming up just right here in August, what was that again?
August
6th?
8th.
August 8th.
August 8th. And actually, you can go vote today.
Correct.
You can walk into your local board of elections. Those ladies and gentlemen will be glad to see you. They'll take great care of you. They'll hand you an absentee ballot. You can fill it out in a few seconds and then vote. It's the only issue on the ballot for this August. And if you listen to this interview at all, you can tell that I strongly believe a yes vote is critical for our ability to protect the Constitution and protect Ohioans and make sure that we all get tired of these 30-second ads or these little blips of information. And I assure you that we have debated this issue of whether to put it before you for over a year now. And really, the issue has been around at various forums and various debates for at least 20 years, back when I was a Farm Bureau leader over 20 years ago, because it's becoming easier and easier to buy the Ohio Constitution with outside special interests. And that's why I'm urging a yes vote.
Well, very good. And I think that you have very eloquently described your points, and we appreciate you taking time to spend with us today.
It's great to be with you. I encourage everyone to vote August 8th.
Pardon me?
I encourage everyone to vote on August 8th.
Yes, please get out there and vote. And again, it's just one thing to vote on, but it's a very, very important, life-changing thing to vote on. So you need to get out and do it. Thank you so much, State Representative Bob Peterson. And so wonderful that he took the time to spend with us this morning. And we greatly appreciate it. Thanks to him. We're back.
We are back.
Yay!
So thank you again to all three of those gentlemen for coming in and spending a little bit of time with us to try to educate the public about this, but also try to fairly represent both sides of this argument so that you can make an informed decision.
You're exactly right.
Not informed by scare tactics, just
mailers or text messages or I don't know how I lucked out of the text message thing, because I know Josh over and Matt both said that they get like 3 to 4 a day.
Yeah,
have you gotten any?
Not about this. I used to get.
I haven't either.
I used to get a lot of spam emails, and I got some spam text messages during like presidential campaign, but unsubscribed to most of it, I guess.
That's the one good thing about, robocalls versus the text things is you can opt out of the text thing.
Sure.
So the robocalls you can never get rid of.
Yeah, those are bad.
Yep.
Yeah. But hey, today is election day.
It is election day.
There are 3 polling places in Jackson County: Madison, Jefferson, Bingo Hall, and Oak Hill, Fieldhouse at Jackson High School in Jackson, and Wilson High School in Wilson. Those are the only 3 places in Jackson County to vote.
That's right. So wherever your prospective polling place is, that's where you go now.
Yeah.
Benton County does have some actual new polling places as well, so make sure you check into that before you drive somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
But no, the main thing is to get out and vote and exercise your right that so many people work so hard for to be able to do.
Yep.
Especially we women. Shame on us.
Shame on you.
If we don't go vote,
It's true.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, I haven't been up to the high school. I think the last time I voted, I did it at the Board of Elections. So I haven't been up to the high school.
I voted at the high school last time. That was the first time I voted as a citizen of Jackson.
That's right.
Yeah. At least in person. But it was very quick in and out. But also there was only like 11 people that voted in the last election.
That's right. That's so true.
So I expect turnout for this to be better, but probably still pretty light.
I will have to say, though, for a special election, this topic has gotten quite a bit of
for an
publicity
August election,
and press and whatnot, and attention, if you will. So some of the silly things that you read and see are quite entertaining, to say the least, but that's okay. So just decide for yourself. That's the thing. Learn the facts. Don't let some stupid flyer
learn
or text
to recognize
message.
scare tactics and things like that, and learn to understand what it really is.
And both sides are at fault for doing some crazy, silly things. So, but that's just political, as my dad says, it's political silly season. And that's, that just goes with the territory.
Just getting started too.
Yeah.
Imagine it's going to be so bad next year.
I just can't wait till this presidential thing. It's going to be so fun.
We had to make it every 4 years. We couldn't have made it every 10 years.
Right.
I mean, not that we necessarily want anybody in there for 10 years.
No, but I know what you're saying. It's just, it just beats you down. So, but anyway, get out and vote. And we hope you enjoyed our program.
Yeah.
Yep. So, got to get out of here for the day.
We'll see everybody tomorrow. Thank you for watching.
Yep. Bye-bye.
This just in.
The Telegram News has a new website.
thetelegrammnews.com.
Same dedicated coverage.
Same trustworthy news with a brand new look.
Covering the surrounding areas.
Locally owned and operated, thetelegrammnews.com has its finger on the pulse of the community.
Stay up to date on local events, high school sports, and breaking news.
thetelegrammnews.com.
Subscribe today at thetelegrammnews.com.
Check it out.